Samuel Chong is a certified court interpreter. He translated a book by a French contactee, Michel Desmarquet, about a hermaphrodite race of extraterrestrials called the Theubans. More recently, he has translated a book by a German high-level representative of the Illuminati who defected, and he's here today to tell us about the book and the secrets it reveals about the operations of the Illuminati.
You're listening to Exopolitics Today with Dr. Michael Salla, your source for the uncensored truth regarding the human, extraterrestrial, global, and political agenda. Click the like button and subscribe to this channel. And now, here's Dr. Michael Salla.
Well, welcome back, Samuel, to Exopolitics Today.
Oh, thanks for having me here again.
Well, we had you here about a year ago and you talked about the Theuba prophecy. So why don't you just, again, introduce yourself to people who maybe didn't see that video and know nothing about you?
So I'm a Chinese translator based in Los Angeles. So I work mostly with lawyers and doctors. But in my free time, I explore different subjects. I translated the book Theuba Prophecy into Chinese, which is a book about the warnings from advanced ETs about how we can change our future for the better, indicating that the real dangers on Earth are number 1, money, number 2, politicians, number 3, journalists and drugs, number 4, religions.
Okay, that's very good. A nice succinct description of what you've done, and we will get back to the Theuba prophecy a little later. But I'm fascinated by this book, 334% lies. So why don't you tell us about the author of this book and what we know about him and what happened to him?
Well, the author of the book was actually a former highest degree member of a secret society that was founded in Germany. The book doesn't really mention anything about the Illuminati. It just says the word lodge. But from my additional research and exploration, I connected the dots, indicating that the secret society mentioned in the book is actually the Illuminati Order. The author was just a German college student when he was young, and then he was introduced to join the organization, the lodge, and then he moved up the ladder, and then from a basic degree member to the highest degree chair of that organization. He was actually the chair of the German branch of the Illuminati, but then after a while, he became the chair of the entire organization of the North American branch and also the European branch. He had his final realization after he was being buried on his own will for 41 days underground, in which during the period of time, he realized everything is about love, about having a symbiosis relationship between the Illuminati and the rest of the world. Then he wanted to change the direction of his organization to coexist peacefully and harmoniously with the rest of the world. But then he discovered that he had an adversary, a younger person who had more psychic powers than he had, trying to overpower him. This actually made him decide to reveal all the secrets of the organization so that the organization can be broken from within. This means that he broke the vows of secrecy, telling us how the organization works, operates, and also the secrets that the members have in the Illuminati.
So the word Illuminati isn't mentioned in the book. It just mentions this organization called the Lodge that has branches all over Europe and the United States and so forth. And that this individual was chosen, and his progression through the hierarchy was due to his advanced psychic abilities. I believe this is kind of similar to how the Rosicrucians operate, that they also have an order which is based on developing psychic abilities, and the more you develop those abilities, the higher up you go. So it sounds like this lodge is very similar. And I don't know that much about the Bavarian Illuminati. I can only guess that it was also based on these psychic kind of abilities.
Exactly, you are absolutely right. Throughout the book, it describes how he progressed, developing his psychic abilities. So it reveals the secrets, how they did it, using a special form of astrology and numerology to predict events in the future, and also using meditation to see auras or the human energy fields, and also using their intuition and also mind control abilities to influence the decisions and behaviors of certain politicians. Throughout the book, it mentions that from time to time they would go and meditate and to develop this kind of psychic abilities to be able to do certain things, what we would consider black magic. And a lot of people would ask, where did they get the knowledge to do so? And they say that there's a library. Actually, there are different libraries in one in each continent. And the author was able to access the library, the knowledge contained in the different books, so that he would be able to develop such abilities. They also use different rituals to do so as well. So this gets really graphic, disturbing, because it describes how they torture people, how they kill certain people to develop their psychic abilities, to absorb the, I would say, the astral body or the electrons from the astral body into their astral body, the psychic to increase their psychic abilities. So this book is not for the average reader. It's not for the faint of heart. I would warn people before reading the book because it's really disturbing, very graphic, and really rough. So be forewarned if you really want to get into the book.
Is the book titled 334% Lies?
If you reverse it, this is actually a symbol like 334, 1 over 1,000. So if you reverse it, that would be the truth of 666, the truth of the devil. And actually the author believes that this organization is powerful, but so evil that people need to know about this. But most of the things that they do are behind the scenes. They manipulate different things. They're the real devil of the world.
That's interesting. So can you kind of like explain maybe a little more how you reverse that title? You're 334 when 1 over 100 or 1,000.
Yeah.
Well, what do you get?
It's 334 thousandth, like 1 over 1,000. If you use 1,000 to subtract 334, you get 666. That's the number of the devil. So 334,000 lies will be the truth of the 666, the devil, the truth of the devil.
I see. So it's really just somehow that title is trying to get people to understand that if you subtract 334 from 1,000, you end up with 666. Okay, all right. That's interesting. Okay, well, thank you for decoding that for us. Now, you referred to some of the rituals. Well, this lodge or this Illuminati branch, it uses rituals. So you want to tell us about what some of the rituals are that they use, and
it gets really disturbing and really graphic. There's a story in the book which I believe actually happened. A young lady called for a pizza delivery, and the pizza delivery boy came to deliver the pizza, and he was led into he was actually drugged, and he lost his consciousness. And then he was carried into the basement of the organization, and then he was tied up and tortured. And the author was told to really torture that pizza delivery boy to death, and then to take his heart out and then eat his heart alive. And then after after eating his heart alive, and he actually absorbed the electrons of the astral body of the pizza delivery boy. And then he felt that he was empowered by the astral body of the pizza delivery boy, and he had more psychic power. This is one of the rituals that they practiced. And there were other rituals described in the book as well. So I wouldn't elaborate more because it's really kind of disturbing, and how they deceive and torture people. And throughout the book, like, you see people deceiving each other and backstabbing each other, even within the organization itself. So it's really something not normal for current like average daily life. You're going to see a lot of very different and interesting black magic performance, and also how they are able to materialize objects from thin air. Like when he went to New York City to meet with the high-level members of the organization in North America, he was trying to show his psychic abilities by materializing or manifesting a pink diamond out of everyone's hand. But his thunder was stolen by the people in North America, because one person turned the diamond into a flying bird. So this is a kind of rituals or performance or magics that they have, or the abilities to do certain things that we would consider like impossible to do, or black magic. And I think it's very important to realize that the high degree members of the Illuminati all have this super power or super psychic abilities.
Yeah, I think that's very important that the book kind of like exposes that. Now, I'm kind of very interested in these libraries that the book mentions, that they are in all over, like the major countries or the continents, Europe, Asia, America, Australia, that these are libraries of destiny. And I read part of that book, and it describes a book that was taken out of that library that was used to predict the future of the author, and that it was a kind of stone tablet written with a strange language, or a language he didn't recognize in it. Maybe later on he expands on that, but I only read the kind of introductory parts on Amazon. So tell us about the library, and the library of destiny.
Yeah, so they can actually predict the future events, at least. This is why some people always wonder why the Illuminati card game was so accurate in predicting events that happen in the future. For example, if you know the Illuminati card game, you're going to see that it predicted the 9/11 event in 2001 that happened in 2001. It predicted the pandemic, COVID. It predicted the Donald Trump, the charismatic leader, and it predicted Capitol riots, and also the political correctness that actually way ahead of its time. So they actually used the library and also the special form of astrology and numerology to predict future events. What happens is that normally we, in astrology, we would just give out our and also the location of birth to the astrologer, and so that we would be told about what's going to happen in the future. But they use a different way of doing so. They are able to calculate the locations or positions of the 5 major planets in our solar galaxy at a given moment of time, using a special formula. And then they would use the tendencies or characteristics of the of specific planet to predict what's likely going to happen in the future. They're also using the meanings of numbers to predict future events based on certain information that they gather. And they also, I think the library contains the knowledge of how to do so. this is actually one of the reasons for me to visit the copyright holder of the book just to in Germany in October, just to find out more information on what they're up to. But I think one of the most important information contained in the book is that right before he became the chair, the highest degree chair of the Illuminati, he was given a stone plate of a very strange language, and then he would stare at the stone plate, just like Nostradamus did when he was going to predict what's going to happen in the future. He just stared at the stone plate, and then images of the future events would come to his mind. This is what he called the unprejudiced seeing. And I think this is one of the psychic abilities that he was able to develop over the years through meditation and through the knowledge that he received from the library, from the books in the library. So I think that's very interesting. And that we have to be really, really warned that the high degree members of the Illuminati can predict the future to a certain extent.
How does that work? I mean, so they use astrology. They have tremendously developed psychic abilities, and there are these stone tablets that somehow correspond to every individual on the planet or in that continent. I mean, and the language on that stone tablet. I mean, I guess, yeah. So I don't quite understand how that stone tablet would have within it the destiny of an individual. Because I remember reading that was like, the author was sitting at a dining table and eventually he gave his details and they went and got a stone tablet and that was read and it predicted the following day for him.
Yeah, that's the ambiguous part in the book, in which that's the earlier part in the book in which he was invited to join a dinner of the organization, and his uncle, no relationship, but he calls him uncle, which is a kind of a leader in the organization, brought us like a book or a stone plate in which his future was read. And he used trickery and gave him like a false birth date, and then because of the incorrect birth date, the person couldn't find the right book of his destiny, and then he admitted that he gave the wrong birth date, and then he gave the right birth date, and then a book was brought up to the uncle, and the uncle was able to read his future and telling him what would happen in the next few days or so, which really happened to him. So that's the earlier part. And then when before he was about to become the chair of the organization, he was given a different stone plate in which imprinted a very strange language. And he was told if he stared onto the stone plate, he would be able to see the future, in which he did. And he used that stone plate to practice seeing of the future by using unprejudiced observation or looking. So that's the difference between the two. One's the earlier event in the book, the other is after right before he became the chair of the organization.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so the stone plate has a design on there that kind of like triggers this ability to be able to prophesy the future. And
yes, he says that the design or the imprint on the stone plate can help him to see the future better. But if one practices meditation and using unprejudiced seeing, one would be able to stare at any given object as long as the object is not a live object. For example, you can stare at other stones or just like a wall or something. You're able to see images of the future, just like what Nostradamus did when he was about to predict the future. He looked at a bowl of water, and this is what Nostradamus did. But I think this is just a practice of a psychic ability that everyone would be able to develop, and using the stone plate or like any object as a tool the stone plate is just a tool in my mind to help him to see the future.
Okay, so this library that has all these stone plates that can be used to see the future, and it's used by the lodge, and it's revered by members of the lodge, that there's a library in the different continents or different geographical regions, and there's one in Europe, one in America, and so forth. Now, this one in Europe, apparently this was where that author went. I mean, it suggests that it was based somewhere in Germany, but it raises the question, does the Vatican have something similar? I mean, the Vatican Apostolic Library, or the Vatican's library, is also supposed to have all of these esoteric texts. So would that be something similar, or are they one and the same?
I would say probably not the same, because from what I read in this book, I would suspect that they got a lost knowledge from Atlantis, because Atlantis was a continent that sunk into the ocean back tens of thousands of years ago. And then some of the books were kept in the library of Alexandria in Egypt. But after the burning of the library, a lot of the knowledge was lost. But I think that some of the books were kept in the libraries mentioned in this book, the 334 Lies, in which the author had access to. So I would think that the author had access to the books that contain the knowledge of the ancient civilizations from Atlantis or Lemuria, while the Vatican probably had textbooks or books related to other subject matters, not necessarily from the ancient civilizations. Because from what I believe, that the author, the highest degree chair of the Illuminati, had the knowledge to perform miracles. I don't think the Vatican would have the books on that subject.
The author, he describes some secret societies as being honorable, doing good things, good works, and other secret societies such as the Lodge being very dangerous and evil. So, yeah, can you maybe explain a little bit? We have a diagram here of some of the different secret societies. So, yeah, if you want to comment on any of those, or what comes up in the book as being examples of either honorable or dishonorable secret societies.
Well, this book mentions a lot of the operations that they did, including forming alliances with different fraternity organizations. But it doesn't really name names. It doesn't say the Rosicrucians. It doesn't say the names of the other organizations, such as the Club of Rome or something like that. It just says that this organization, which is the Illuminati, is powerful but dangerous, while the other organizations, probably the Masonic Lodge or something like that, they're secret but they're benign. And this really surprised me, because I read a lot of books mentioning or indicating that the Masonic organization was kind of evil or something like that. But this book really opens my mind that not necessarily so. I would say that the only connection between this book and the Illuminati is a website called illuminatiorder.info, because when I found, what I was very surprised at is that there's a strange language in the beginning of each chapter, which I didn't know what language that was. And I typed the language onto Google and then did a search, and then the website illuminatiorder.info came up, and then it had that strange language, which is actually the original language for the tablets of the Emirates tablets, and then the German translation and the English translation. So everything matches. So this is how I think the conclusion is pretty kind of confirmational, is that this book, the lodge mentioned in the book, is the Illuminati Order, which is indicated on the website illuminatiorder.info, which is a very strange website if you browse the website. But it really doesn't say anything else about the other organizations.
Okay, well, that's interesting. So this lodge is connected to the Illuminati, and by that we assume that's kind of like the Adam worshipped, the Bavarian Illuminati. That this lodge is somehow connected to that, or outgrowth of that. Now, and that there's a difference with other organizations such as the Freemasons that are more benign in, as you just explained. Now, I just wanted to kind of like bring out some information about the Freemasons that other authors have brought forward. I know that there's a author, Radu Cinema, who's written a series of books called Transylvania Sunrise, and in there he describes Freemasons as being very hierarchical, but at the very and like by and large most are doing good things that they're innocent, they're not doing, but at the very highest level that these guys, these Freemasons, essentially control most of the planet's secret knowledge. So I guess at the highest level of organizations like the Freemasons, maybe you have some crossover, or maybe the same people working with organizations like the Lodge.
Well, it's certainly possible, but the Lodge in this book is more powerful and dangerous because according to this book, about 20 people control the entire world, and they divide up the world among themselves. So I actually had a personal experience with a friend of mine who actually witnessed personally about $5 billion being transferred to the bank account of that was set up using his own passport in Hong Kong, the HSBC VIP service of in Hong Kong, just in order to convince him that there are people in China or Hong Kong that directly or indirectly control the money supply and above the central banks, or maybe working in connection with the central banks. And he actually also saw them interacting with the members or people of the New York Fed. And they also directly or indirectly control who become the leaders of China. And he was given the explanations of why certain person became the leader of China, who was going to become the next leader of China, and what he was going to do. Everything turned out to be true. And so there is an organization that controls everything behind the scenes, and they frequently use the word bloodlines for some strange reasons. And my friend didn't know why, and unfortunately he lost contact with that person because he didn't follow their invitation or didn't go to their invitation to meet the next leader of China. So I think there may be a lot of interconnections between the Freemasons and the organization, the Illuminati. But I think in this book, they say that if you really, there's no way for you to know who those 20 people are because they always do things behind the scenes and their names never appear in public, never get printed on newspapers. If you do a search on Google of their names, there's going to be no result. And they may be just like average person walking on the street, but they actually control a large part of the world. So this is how they operate, always running behind the scenes because they say the politicians come and go every 4 or 5 years, but the people who control everything behind the scenes never get taken down the power.
Now, you mentioned that this high-level defector from the Lodge, from the Illuminati, was for a time running that organization in the United States. And when you made that statement about that the Lodge and the Illuminati, they believe elected representatives come and go, and they just kind of part-time, and that the Illuminati, the Lodge, that they are the ones that run things. Immediately made me think of, in the United States, in the bureaucracy, you have something called the Senior Executive Service, which is like which is above the kind of the pay grade of most public servants. I think GS 15 is the highest kind of level you can go to as a bureaucrat before you enter into this senior executive service, which seems to be a class on its own in terms of being really the permanent government or the deep state, that these guys, they believe that they're running things. So would this senior executive service in the United States be a group which is thoroughly infiltrated or controlled by this Illuminati?
They certainly can influence the decision-making process of this group of people, the senior service people. And remember, the high-degree members of the Illuminati, they have psychic abilities to do mind control. They can actually go inside of a person and see what that person sees, hears, or experiences, and then make decisions of that person. And then they would leave the person's body and then injecting the memories of making such decision into that person's brain or memory, so that the person wouldn't be surprised at making such a strange decision. So this is the ability or the psychic powers that the Illuminati members have. So they're able to use the senses of another to really see everything that the other person sees. And so, of course, they will be able to influence the decisions of the politicians or people who are really in power. But remember, these guys, they never come into public. And this is why in the book it says there's no use to use law enforcement people to arrest any of the members, because they can just use their psychic abilities to project false images to the law enforcement personnel so that they can escape very easily. So this is why the author of the book really wants the organization to be broken from within. And this is why he broke the vows of secrecy, revealing all the secrets of the organization, hoping that some of the members can be enlightened and know the real purpose of life, and which is about love and coexistence. And so that there will be more defectors breaking from the organization. So to reduce the power or the influence of the Illuminati.
Well, there's some organizations that are kind of fairly well known in the United States. One of those is Skull and Bones, and there are rituals that young students, I think these are at Yale University, I think it's in the senior year, that like precocious students, high achievers are approached to join the Skull and Bones, and so they perform various rituals. So do you want to describe what you know of Skull and Bones and the different rituals they do, and how that would fit into this Illuminati organization?
I think the Skull and Bones is just another secret society in the U.S. that has a lot of connections or political powers of its members. But in terms of how much psychic abilities that the members have, I'm not so sure, because as from the people that I know who are members of the Skull and Bones, I don't think they have sufficient psychic abilities as described in this book. Remember, the book 334,000 Lies is actually written by the highest degree member of the Illuminati. And a lot of the other books written on the subject of the Illuminati are researchers who find the literature or books on the subject matter, and also some of them know some of the lower degree members of the organization and then write such books. But this book is actually an autobiography of the former highest degree chair, who writes about his personal experiences, how he moved up the ladder, how he became the chair of the organization after being buried 41 days alive underground. And then from the perspective of the leader of the organization and revealing the core secrets of the secret society. So I think if you really want to get into how the world works and how they perform black magic, how they manipulate different people, I think reading this book will be necessary. And I think Skull and Bones is just one of the many secret societies that the author of this book would consider to be not causing a lot of harm to the people on Earth.
Now, I know you mentioned that case or that example of how the Illuminati performed these very dark rituals, like that pizza delivery boy, how he was kind of killed, heart eaten. Is that really a key part of being able to progress into the highest levels of leadership of these organizations? You know, whether we're talking Freemasons, whether we're talking the Illuminati, is some form of kind of like satanic ritual abuse where children are sacrificed is a key way in which a person is able to progress into the higher levels?
The answer is no, but they use the rituals to control their members so that they wouldn't leave the organization because they all committed bad acts, horrific acts. There are different ways to increase someone's psychic abilities. For example, meditation is actually mentioned in the book. And another important condition is that the person has to be predisposed to be able or to have the potential to develop the psychic abilities. For example, in this book, it talks about the author having past lives. One of his past lives was like a pharaoh in Egypt, very powerful pharaoh. And then, so he had many past lives. So he had a lot of knowledge, and also, I would say, the electrons in the astral body that would be able to give him the knowledge, or at least easily making him remember the knowledge to perform such psychic abilities. And I wouldn't suggest people to increase their psychic powers by participating in the rituals that they perform, because there's a very good scientific study about past lives and also past life regression, in which when a person dies, the person has to go through a life review process. The entire past life will be shown to the person just like a holographic film. He or she will be able to feel the pains that he caused onto others, and also the sufferings of the people that he caused them to suffer. So if someone tortures a person, then he will be able to feel the pains and sufferings of the person he tortured. So this is the reason why I wouldn't suggest anyone to really perform such rituals, horrific rituals, to gain psychic abilities, because there are other ways to do that, such as meditation, concentration, mentioned in the book Theobald Prophecy. The book Theobald Prophecy gives you a lot of knowledge to be able to perform such abilities. And so is this book. This book talks about the importance of seeing auras and how to do that. And actually, this is the reason I found this book, 334 Lies, because I know from Theobald Prophecy, it's very important to be able to see the colors of auras of different people, because if that's the case, we will be able to tell who is lying on the stage, and we will be able to choose a better political candidate just by looking at the auras of that person. We will be able to predict the physical illness of a person way before the symptoms manifest. And also, we will be able to do a lot of other things as well. And there are ways to do that, as mentioned in the book 334 Lies. One is to really look at the the middle of the eyebrows of the person, and then just stare at that location, that point, for a long time, and then sooner or later you're able to see like the colors of auras or maybe some other things. So this is a very unique technique described in the book. If people are interested, you can check it out.
Decades ago, when I came across some Rosicrucian literature describing some of the exercise to develop psychic abilities, and it didn't really interest me at the time. I was more interested in kind of like Eastern philosophy and so forth. But it sounds as though, you know, this particular organization that the author entered was very much a meritocratic organization, because I mean, he was like an outsider. He wasn't brought up in a family. He was just brought up in a normal family, no connection to the secret societies. But it was because he had advanced psychic abilities that he was able to rise up very, very high, and that's all you need to rise to these high levels in these organizations, whether they're, well, in this particular one, that seemed to be all they were interested in.
Well, actually, he was chosen to be brought into the organization from before. When he was a college student in Germany, he was approached by a very attractive lady who was actually used as by the Illuminati as a person to draw him into the organization. They were able to see the colors of the auras of different people. So they approached him because he had a unique aura. They were able to see that he had the potential to develop such psychic abilities. They were able to tell that he was a bisexual because they performed a lot of homosexual acts as well. And then they were able to tell his strengths and weaknesses. And because if you're able to see the auras of a person, you're actually able to understand far more than anyone else about that person, probably better than the person, him or herself, because you'll be able to tell the personalities of the person. You'll be able to tell the past and the future of that person. You'll be able to tell a lot of different things. If you find a very authentic aura reader, get a reading, and then you're going to be amazed at what the aura reader can discover about yourself. So this is the reason I found the book 334 Lies, because I was looking for ways to see the colors of auras. And as indicated in the book Theoba Prophecy, that will be a very important skill to develop.
Now, I remember coming across some information many years ago, and it concerned the ability of some of these black magicians, or these human sorcerers, to be able to entrap extraterrestrials, and that some of the visiting extraterrestrials were warned about the danger of these black magicians on Earth that had this ability to entrap them and then control them. So, yeah, do you want to maybe elaborate on that possibility, or if you know anything about that?
Yeah, it's certainly possible. It's definitely possible, because once you reach a certain level of psychic abilities, you are actually doing the things that a lot of the highly advanced ETs could do. And there are different levels of ETs, different categories of different ETs in our Milky Way galaxy. This is why I would suggest people to read the book Theoba Prophecy, because according to that book, people on Earth are Category 1 inhabitants, and they come from a Category 9 planet. They're the highest level. And the ones that we always hear about, the Greys, they're actually Category 1 planet inhabitants trying to monitor us and to see how we respond to the increasingly decreased immune system, because the Greys also have the same problem as we have been having, and they just wanted to see how we cope with the situation so that they can learn from us. And their spacecraft crashed on Earth because their technologies were not that far advanced. But I would say we should learn from the Theobans, because their spacecraft would never crash on Earth because they're so highly advanced compared to the ETs, compared to us, it is definitely possible to use your psychic abilities to entrap category 1 ETs such as a Grace. That's definitely possible, but you are never able to entrap using your psychic abilities someone from Thiuba, because they're so highly advanced, and they will be able to have better ways to prevent that from someone doing to them. And actually, I do know that there are technologies by some of the organizations, military-wise or civilian-wise, that can actually mimic how people think using AI, or using what they would call voice of God or voice of skull technology, and also to make people believe that someone is speaking of certain things to them. And this is and I know that there are a lot of victims in China and the US and elsewhere in the world, and this is to be paid a lot of attention by the people. But I do believe that if you increase your psychic abilities, you're definitely able to entrap lower degree or lower level ETs. Regarding the reptilians or Draco beings, neither of the two books talk about them, and but I get one mentioning of the reptilians from a Dutch banker called Ronald Bernard, and he used to work for members of the Illuminati, and he says that the Illuminati controls the central banks of the world, working behind the scenes, running the Bank of International Settlements. And he personally witnessed that one of the members killing another person just by putting his hand onto the chest of the person. And he says he knows that people always talk about the reptilians, but he found no evidence of that. He says that people tend to believe that the Illuminati are connected to the reptilians because of the supernatural or super psychic abilities. I personally haven't found any connections between reptilians or Dracos to the Illuminati. I personally believe that people may perceive them to be connected to the reptilians because of the supernatural, super psychic abilities that they can perform.
Bernard, you mentioned him, and he's a very interesting witness. He talked about his role in terms of being recruited and central banking and so forth that you mentioned. But he also said that what led to his defection from that organization, from that pathway, was when he saw the way that children were being treated. And I assume he was talking about the kind of like SRA that was occurring, and that led to him making a break from it. So I guess he's an example of a normal person that maybe rises to a certain level, and he described it as like, well, if you wanted to get to the higher level, you needed to participate in these rituals involving children, and then you could rise high. But because he didn't do that, then he was shunted aside, he defected, and then he became a witness.
Exactly. And I've heard other things about well-known business people in the US controlling one of the largest foundations and torturing or abusing children. and I've heard a lot of stories about that as well. And they do have a lot of validity, and they do use that to control members of the organization so that they wouldn't leave the organization for the fear of being exposed of the horrific acts that they did. And they do that to control members, and not necessarily to increase their psychic abilities, but to control the members.
Okay. Well, let's talk a little bit about the Uber prophecy. I mean, we did an interview just over a year ago where you talked about that. So you want to give us any update on that particular book and what is happening today?
Yes, I see that it's really true that the book mentions the real dangers on Earth. And also what's interesting is that the solutions given by the book are really practical and also doable, because for the real dangers, it talks about money, politicians, journalists, and drugs and religions. But really, the solutions lie in the hands of the people. They're suggesting that people can act together in a concerted fashion using nonviolent resistance to rise up against tyrannies of the world, which are the financiers or the families or the bloodlines of the world controlling everything behind the scenes. And it's giving people power and hope that if we act, then the future will be changed for the better. Because while the past is fixed, the future is changeable depending on our collective consciousness. So the book really suggests that people look inside for answers when we have challenges in life. And this suggests people to have spiritual knowledge and real practical knowledge to know what's really going on behind the scenes. So a lot of practical knowledge contained in the book would be like how to kill viruses or bacteria using blue light and yellow light. This is actually proven by Harvard Medical School in some of their papers. And also practical value would include how to really achieve psychic abilities and also to use your intuition when making decisions so that you can advance your spiritual lessons and there are also ways to help yourself and also others by providing them with the practical knowledge when certain things happen in your life unexpectedly. It also gives people the knowledge about the past and future life, as well as the meaning of life, which is to really develop our spirituality and to increase our spiritual knowledge, because we learn different spiritual lessons in our past lives. And Michel de Marquet, the author of the Uber Prophecy, was shown of his past lives, 80 past lives. Once he was a German miner who accidentally killed his wife and leaving many children behind him. Once he was a Japanese goldsmith. A few times he was a beggar on the street. And he had different roles in his past lives, learning different lessons through his encounters or challenges. And this is how we develop our spirituality. And our past lives are just like different positions on a wheel. What goes up has to come down. So we have to experience everything in order to fully learn the spiritual lessons that we need to learn. So there's no need to envy about the super wealthy of the world, because they have their own challenges and their own spiritual lessons to learn. We have our own as predestined before we were born here. So there are a lot of different lessons and spiritual practical knowledge contained in the book, The Uber Prophecy. And it also talks about ancient civilizations, Lemuria, Atlantis, and also the ET spaces, the ET bases on the far side of the moon, and life on Mars. Like, yes, Mars had life before, about 1.35 million years ago. And a lot of interesting things can be verified nowadays. But the book was written in the late 80s and published in the early 90s, way before the age of the internet. And there are a lot of specific verifiable facts in the book that I strongly suggest people to explore further.
But both books kind of emphasize psychic development, and also the author of that first book, 334 Lies, he described how he arrived at the understanding that it really was all about love, that developing psychic abilities to dominate, control, and be able to advance in life didn't really mean as much as just being able to develop the love. So do you want to maybe explain how that led to him breaking off and what happened, when he broke away? I mean, and there's some controversy over the book, 334 Lies. So yeah, what happened when he broke away, and how did this kind of understanding that it's all about love help him reach that decision?
So before I get into that, I'd like to describe how the book talks about what they did before to the world. So as an organization, they supported politicians, fanatics, even terrorist organizations to advance the interests of the lodge. And the lodges in America played people off against each other, causing fights among different mafias, tempting the KKK, attacking minorities, and simultaneously fomenting racism and launching crusades against racism. So they supported both sides of the acts. So in other sense, other means the Republicans and the Democrats would be both of them would be under payroll. So they supported one action, and they supported the people against that action. So they supported both sides. Their goal is to divide and rule. So this is their ultimate purpose. But after the former chair of the Illuminati was buried underground for 41 days, his astral body leaves his physical body. And then he realized everything is about love when God or the Creator created everything. So after his astral body came back to his physical body, he decided to change the direction of his organization, fomenting like a symbiosis relationship with the rest of the world. So he was making peace and not causing wars or conflicts of the world anymore. So that actually caused a lot of conflicts with other members of the organization. But he was able to suppress the fractions that were against him, because he was the highest degree chair, the 41st degree chair of the Illuminati. But then as days go on, he found that there was a younger person who was more evil and had more psychic abilities than he had, and trying to overpower him. And more of his allies were leaving him and joining his adversary. And so this is what caused him to write a book revealing the secrets and breaking his vows of secrecy. And so the book was actually published first in German language in the year 2001. And he disappeared in the summer of 2001, just 1 or 2 months before 9/11 happened. And no one knows where he is right now, whether he's alive or dead. And the contact that I have is the copyright holder of the book, which is a German consulting firm. And that's the only contact that I have. They kept inviting me to their annual meetings. But because if you read the book, you're going to see the horrific things they did to the pizza delivery boy and other people. I had been putting off their invitation and finding excuses, delaying my trip to Germany. But over the last year or 2 years or so, I've seen many new conflicts caused by this group of people. According to my speculation, the wars in Ukraine and the conflicts in the Middle East. So I'm willing to sacrifice myself by meeting them, exposing myself, advancing the interests of the copyright holder, and to really find out what is going on with them, and to find out what their agenda is in the future, and to find out more information on their plans in the future. So I know this is going to be a very dangerous act, If you read the book, you're going to know why it's dangerous. But I think it's worth it. I'm willing to do it.
To go to that book fair in Germany where the publisher has invited you, and you're working with them, obviously. So that suggests that there might be some connection to this lodge through that publisher, or maybe those interested in the book, and you're exposing yourself. So that is courageous. So we do wish you well when you get over there. One of the things that I'm presently very interested in is data that's coming to me from different sources that King Charles III, it was recently possessed by a very dark, malevolent spirit, and that he may represent a real antichrist force on the planet. So, yeah, do you know anything about that?
From what I read so far, the technologies that some of the militaries have is certainly possible. They're able to use radio wave kind of frequency to control a person's mind. It's definitely possible, both using psychic powers and using modern technologies. So using modern technologies, they're able to really make the people have illusions and believing that they're in certain situations or they had certain experiences which never happened. So this is why some people may have encountered such, or some people may be the victims of such technologies, including politicians or world leaders. It's so possible. And there's a book written by Dr. Robert Duncan, who was actually a participant in such operations or projects in which they used this kind of electromagnetic or radio wave technology to control people's mind, giving them illusions or causing them to act in a certain way, or even kill people, or making irrational decisions. So this is the kind of the world that we are living in right now. So this is why the book The About Prophecy warns about technology. Technology should be used to develop our spirituality and not to use to enslave us in this more and more materialistic world. And at the same time, it's also possible using psychic powers to control a person's mind. It's also illustrated in the book The About Prophecy and also 334 Lies. It's entirely possible to make a person believe certain things happened and to make a person to act in an irrational way. And I do believe that this is a very dangerous world we're living in right now.
Well, there is this growth in transhumanism, and what you were describing from the Theoba prophecy, that it's all about development of ourselves, developing these gifts that we have, psychic gifts, and of course society, or at least the kind of techno-centric side of society that we live in today is really pushing this transhumanist agenda. It seems that people are just spending more and more time on computers, becoming dependent on computers, and of course cell phones and all of that. So I can't imagine it's going to be too long before some development, whether it's Apple or someone else, Google, is going to develop some kind of human chip that you just slap on a chip and you're connected to the internet and it goes into your body. And so then the transhumanist agenda moves forward. But on the other hand, through the prophecy, and of course, I guess the author of this 334 book are emphasizing that really it is about love rather than going down this other path.
Yes, exactly. Because love is the reason that the Creator created human race on Earth, is to experience through our challenges, the sorrows and the happiness and everything that we experience in life. Because the Creator is a pure spirit. It doesn't have a physical body. It needs our physical body as a carrier to experience everything that we experience. And we send positive feedback to the Creator. so that everything goes round and round, and we can evolve in and move up the ladder, and then reach category 9, which is like a paradise state of world, and everything is so perfect on the planet Theoba. So this is actually the reason why we live here, is to grow our spirituality and to move up the ladder so that we can join and rejoin with the creator of the universe, which is a pure spirit.
Very good. So where do people go, Samuel, to learn more about you, to purchase any books that you've translated?
They can find me on Facebook and do a search on the search engines, and the books are on Amazon, and I strongly encourage people to read them because you're going to gain knowledge, and knowledge is power.
Very good. Well, I wish you well, and definitely keep in touch and let us know how this trip to Germany goes, and I look forward to collaborating with you on some other projects. So definitely keep us in mind, and we wish you all the best for your trip to Germany.
Thank you so much, Michael.
You have been listening to Exopolitics Today with Dr. Michael Salla. Please remember to like, share, and subscribe to this channel. Join or start a conversation in the comments. Take the time to explore the vast library of best-selling books, webinars, and podcasts by Dr. Salla. Visit exopoliticstoday.com.